So, Kristina, I've got a question for you. How do you explain your condition to other people if they ask?
That's a really interesting question, and I don't know that I've ever been asked it before. I think it's how people go about asking you. So, if you are polite and approach me, and genuinely I feel like you want to understand or know something, I am more than happy to tell people about albinism and kind of explain what it is and what it's not. But the problem is that quite often people's curiosity comes in negative forms as well. People might want to know, but instead of asking me, they will talk about me in front of me. That's really rude to do that. If you actually want to ask a question, then you can approach me and ask me, and I will, for the most part, happily give you an answer. How do I actually explain it to people? You've got to keep it really basic. So if someone says, "Why is your hair that colour?" I will just explain that it's because I don't have any pigment, and pigment is the thing that gives you colour. You overcomplicate things. A, people, like, their eyes glaze over, and B, people don't understand either. So, you can sense if someone actually wants to know, and if they really do, then I absolutely will. But if they're being nosy and just doing it to take the mickey and be rude, then I do give people short shrift as well. So that happens.
Yes, that makes sense, doesn't it? So it's total context, isn't it? And presumably also practical elements, I would imagine, again, I'm guessing, but do you find that it's important to tell people that it includes visual impairment because people don't necessarily know that?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. So the general population, I know, thinks that albinism is just a look. I'm talking about my type of albinism because it's the most obvious and it's the one that people associate with albinism. They don't understand that it's actually a medical condition and that it comes with things. And so people don't understand that you're visually impaired. And so that's something that I have to explain. And that in itself is really tricky, because as soon as you start telling people that you're visually impaired, people say, "Well, how much can you see? What can you see?" I always say in a really polite way back, "Well, what can you see? Because I can't describe my vision. My vision to me is perfectly normal. As is someone with typical vision, their vision is normal." So I just and then I have to go on and kind of try and describe it to be helpful, and I just say that I don't see detail. So I say that my world is like colors and shapes and context, and if I've got context, my brain fills in the blanks of what my eyes don't see. So it's probably a bit like some kind of impressionist painting, and anything that's probably like a meter or so away, it has no detail. And if I want to see detail, my world is like there in front of my face. It's not like meters away like it is for other people. My world is kind of there, and if it's not there, then I don't see it.
Yeah, it must be really hard without giving people a full-on vision biology lesson to explain, mustn't it? I mean, I have a similar thing in clinic when patients ask or parents ask what children can see. So it's really hard to describe it without being either super vague or having to go into such detail that, as you say, people lose their minds halfway through. And I think part of that is because people assume that your eyes are really just holes in your head where light goes through and it hits your brain and you see stuff. And if the eyes don't work, you don't, and therefore everything's black. But if they do, it's fine. You know what I mean? It's the grey area in between those two things which are hard. And I also have people with albinism who say that people don't understand why I use a cane, but I can clearly look at stuff. Or I might, these ridiculous memes where somebody's got a large print book and they're reading it, but they've got a cane next to them, and people see that as a ridiculous paradox, but actually it makes perfect sense. It's really hard, isn't it, to explain those nuances without going on for 25 minutes or whatever. Yeah, it must be really tricky.
I have a guide dog, but when I don't use my guide dog, because I can walk down the street without a guide dog, I can walk down the street without a cane. The reason I use a guide dog and the reason I use a cane is partly because I really struggle with light. So when it's bright, I can't see. So I can't see where I'm going. So a guide dog or a cane helps me with that. Also, I can't judge curbs and stuff like that. So I end up tripping and looking like an idiot, and partly because it just gives me confidence. It means I don't have to explain myself. So if I don't use a dog or a cane and I'm in a train station, and quite often if I go up to someone and ask them what platform the train's, they'll turn around and go, are you blind, or can you not see? And I'm like, yeah, a little bit, that's true, yeah, I can't. So, but people don't understand. People think either visual impairment is like you see nothing, or if you do, then you need to be walking around with a guide dog or a cane. And there's plenty of people with albinism who don't have either because they don't feel they need to, and that's also absolutely fine. But explaining vision is a really hard thing to do, and then people see your eyes move, so then they assume that your whole world moves, and as we have said, that doesn't happen either. I think people have a perception with albinism like that you don't like the light. They don't quite get what it is, but they kind of think light and albinism because they know that you can't tan. But to explain what the reality of that is also really hard, because it is a hard thing for me to understand. So to then explain it to other people is even harder. So it's just all round quite tricky.
It is difficult, isn't it? Do you think it's also worse? I've heard this before. If you're someone who doesn't wear glasses or doesn't get a benefit from glasses, people can't understand how you can be visually impaired. Why would you not just get some glasses?
But then I think you have the reverse. So people, when they wear glasses, people think, well, they can't be visually impaired because they're wearing glasses, and so glasses must help them. So I think you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. People just don't understand. The thing with albinism is that your vision is really normal to you. Like, I think I've got perfect vision. I know the reality is that I don't have perfect vision, but people, when I don't use my guide dog or my long cane, some people forget or don't know, because I'm so good at passing as being able to see. Like, if you spent not much time with me, you probably wouldn't know that I was visually impaired. But if you spent a longer part of time with me, then it would suddenly dawn on them, and you might think, oh, there's something not quite right with her, or why is she doing this, or why does she do that? Then you'd realise. But just you can, and I think a lot of people with albinism also get away with that too. They can just fluff their way through life, but that makes things harder, because then you get yourself into all sorts of difficult situations because people don't know that you're visually impaired, and then you either have to kind of fess up, or you just have to go along with the fact that, like, you're either drunk or you're stupid or something like that. And then you also get to an age where you don't want to be doing that either, because life's too short.
So in summary, I think we're thinking that when you explain albinism to somebody, the key thing is to try and get the important bits across quickest, and it is context related. Is that fair to say? So if someone's genuinely inquisitive, some of the things you've said are important to kind of get across are the fact that visual impairment is a big part of it. Problem with bright lights is a big part of it. It's not just vision. And that if you're visually impaired, you may use some things to try and help with that, but it's not going to completely fix the problem. Is that fair?
Yes, I think that's fair. And I think, just to round it all up, is not everybody with albinism sees the same. There's such a wide variety of vision, and just more generically, all visually impaired people have different issues with their eyes, and not one person is the same. If you've got anything else you want us to discuss, or any burning questions you want us to answer, then please put it in the comments below.
And if you could press some of those buttons at the bottom, the heart ones, the thumb ones, whatever they are, apparently that's good to get people to see these videos. So please do that.